How good is your credit control process? Do you even understand exactly what I mean when I say credit control process? I think this is one of these things where it sounds like big scary terminology and credit and control and process. None of these things are particularly nice words. None of these things are the reason why we went into business for ourselves in the first place. So it's kind of an easy area to turn a bit of a blind eye to. But it's actually incredibly important if you're going to keep your business financially afloat. So I want to explain to you today what credit control really means, but then also give you thoughts on how to build a process for this so that you make it simple, you create consistency, and so that it's not so scary and you get paid more consistently more often. So what does credit control mean? Well, really what it's about is having a clear process so that at any point when one of your customers becomes overdue with an invoice, then you know exactly how you're going to chase that up, how, when, through what method. So you've basically got a series of steps that say to you, let's say as an example, that once an invoice is 2 days overdue, perhaps you will send an email. When it gets to 7 days overdue, if you haven't heard anything, then you'll make a phone call. And you would also have a template for that email and an outline kind of script for that telephone call so that you turn it into a process. Now, the reason that this needs to be a process is because when it's your own business, the whole thought of chasing for money is really, really icky, isn't it? It can feel really uncomfortable. It's filled with emotion, it's all sorts of emotion about worth, about relationship, about what will people think of me, about can I pay the bills. There's loads of emotion all the way wrapped around this. So one of the best ways that you can remove that emotion is by creating a clear process. So it doesn't fall to you to decide what you're going to do about it or when you're going to do something. Your process tells you on day 2, I'm going to do this or say this, I'm going to email this, that you've got that clarity. So slowly but surely, when you follow that routine, the emotion goes out of it and it just becomes a fixed process that you've practiced and that you're comfortable with, or as comfortable as can be. So it's really important that you think through that process. How long would you allow a customer to be overdue before you in some way chased them? And my honest answer to that is that it should be short. It should be really very short, because the longer you let this drift, the longer they're likely to take to pay. There is an enormous amount of truth in the fact that a lot of businesses will pay whoever shouts loudest. So if you get into the habit of allowing a customer to constantly pay late and you're constantly very gentle with how and when you follow that up, the customer will essentially take that to mean that you're not that fussed if they don't pay on time, and it's likely to actually just drift and drift and drift. So while you may think that you're being nice and not being too officious about it, you actually might be permitting your customer to be turning into a really bad customer. So bear in mind that they may pay whoever shouts loudest, but also by having a clear process, what you actually do is you train and educate your customers. So if they get to know that every time that they're 2 days late, you're going to push them about it, then they will start to actually pay on time, or they're more likely to start to pay on time because they know that you're going to chase them. They know they can't get away with it. So that process is a really positive thing to educate your customers and to actually potentially help you to stop having to make these nudges and things like that in the future. So doing the kind of hard yards now will actually reap lots of rewards for you much further down the line and mean that you won't have to make so many calls or send so many emails. So take the emotion out of it by creating a process. One other thing you might want to do is actually set up a second email address so that it could just be accounts at, or you might even have a name. I might have bob@tailory.co.uk, that you actually just have another email so that all the invoices and any of the quick chasers come out from somebody else's email. So actually, again, you remove that sort of emotional question mark between you and the customer. If that's somebody you're still working with or somebody you're still building a relationship with or want to sell more to, then actually you can remove that sort of icky emotional bit by using a separate email address. And what that also then means is that when it comes time for you, if you've emailed and they still haven't paid, then by the time you chase, now it feels like it's actually been escalated. So you're almost giving yourself this degree of hierarchy within the business that makes it much more important to the customer when you turn around and actually chase them up with that. One other final tip I would give you is that at any point when a customer is late or delayed with a payment, if they tell you they're going to pay, make a note of what they say and clarify that with them. So if they say to you, yes, it'll be with you by Friday, repeat that back to them if it's a conversation, or clarify it back to them by email, so that they know that you have captured exactly what they've said. So great stuff, you're going to pay it by Friday. That's brilliant. I'll look forward to seeing that in the bank by Friday. And if you just reiterate what it is they've promised, then they can see again that you are professional, that you're organised, that you're taking note, and that this is a process. And again, they're far more likely to kind of toe the line a little bit if you take a much more professional approach. So in being nice to people who are overdue, you'll probably find you're shooting yourself in the foot and giving them permission to pay later and later and later. Whereas when you put a process in place, you remove the emotion, you convey to the customer that you're professional, that you're organised and that you're serious about getting paid without having to be mean or horrible or nasty about it. So actually you keep yourself on a really good footing of respect with the customer. So credit control is a positive thing. It doesn't necessarily always feel like that, but it's a very positive thing in putting your business on the right footing, maintaining the balance of the relationship and the professionalism with your customers, and making sure that you get paid consistently. So I hope that's been useful for you. Maybe a couple of thoughts and snippets in there that you can apply in your own business. Would love to hear back from you in the comments or the reply about how you think this relates to you. And of course, please feel free to share this with anybody else you think would benefit.